Encephalitis lethargica, Wikipedia audio. Encephalitis lethargica is an atypical form of encephalitis. Also known as sleeping sickness or sleepy sickness, it was first described in 1917 by the neurologist Konstantin von Economo and the pathologist Jean-René Cruchet. The disease attacks the brain, leaving some victims in a statue-like condition, speechless and motionless. Between 1915 and 1926, an epidemic of encephalitis lethargica spread around the world. Nearly 5 million people were affected, a third of whom died in the acute stages. Many of those who survived never returned to their pre-existing aliveness. They would be conscious and aware yet not fully awake. They would sit motionless and speechless all day in their chairs, totally lacking energy, impetus, initiative, motive, appetite, affect or desire. They registered what went on about them without active attention, and with profound indifference. They neither conveyed nor felt the feeling of life. They were as insubstantial as ghosts, and as passive as zombies. Symptoms. No recurrence of the epidemic has since been reported, though isolated cases continue to occur. The course of encephalitis lethargica can vary significantly between individuals, particularly when accompanied by pre-existing or simultaneous diseases and disorders. It is characterized by high fever, sore throat, headache, lethargy, double vision, delayed physical and mental response, sleep inversion, and catatonia. In severe cases, patients may enter a coma-like state. Patients may also experience abnormal eye movements, Parkinsonism, upper body weakness, muscular pains, tremors, neck rigidity, and behavioral changes including psychosis. Clazomania is sometimes present. Muriel Kit Richardson, first wife of actor Sir Ralph Richardson, died of the condition in October 1942, having first shown symptoms in 1927-28. There is speculation that Adolf Hitler may have had encephalitis lethargica when he was a young adult. The causes of encephalitis lethargica are uncertain. Veins of modern research have explored its origins in an autoimmune response, and, separately or in relation to an immune response, links to pathologies of infectious disease, e.g., in the case of influenza, where a link with encephalitis is clear. Post-encephalic Parkinsonism was clearly documented to have followed an outbreak of L following 1918 influenza pandemic. Evidence for viral causation of the Parkinson's symptoms is circumstantial, while evidence arguing against this cause is of the negative sort. In reviewing the relationship between influenza and L, McCall and co-workers conclude, as of 2008, that while the case against influenza less decisive than currently perceived, there is little direct evidence supporting influenza in the etiology of L, and that almost 100 years after the L epidemic, its etiology remains enigmatic. Hence, while opinions on the relationship of L to influenza remain divided, the preponderance of literature appears skeptical. In 2010, in a substantial Oxford University Press compendium reviewing the historic and contemporary views on L, its editor, Joel V. Ilansky of the Indiana University School of Medicine, quotes Poole, writing in 1930, who states, "We must confess that etiology is still obscure, the causative agent still unknown, the pathological riddle still unsolved," and goes on to offer the following conclusion, as of that publication date. Does the present volume solve the riddle of L, which has been referred to as the greatest medical mystery of the 20th century? Unfortunately, no, but inroads are certainly made here pertaining to diagnosis, pathology, and even treatment. Subsequent to publication of this compendium, an enterovirus was discovered in L cases from the epidemic. National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, Mystery of the Forgotten Plague, BBC News item about the tracing of the infectious agent in Encephalitis lethargica. Diplococcus has been implicated as a cause of L. There have been several proposed diagnostic criteria for encephalitis lethargica. One, which has been widely accepted, includes an acute or subacute encephalitic illness where all other known causes of encephalitis have been excluded. Another diagnostic criterion, suggested more recently, says that the diagnosis of encephalitis lethargica may be considered if the patient's condition cannot be attributed to any other known neurological condition and that they show the following signs: influenza-like signs, hypersomnolence, wakeability, ophthalmoplegia, and psychiatric changes. Cause. Modern treatment approaches to encephalitis lethargica include immunomodulating therapies, and treatments to remediate specific symptoms. Treatment for encephalitis lethargica in the early stages is patient stabilization, which may be very difficult. There is little evidence so far of a consistent effective treatment for the initial stages, though some patients given steroids have seen improvement. The disease becomes progressive, with evidence of brain damage similar to Parkinson's disease. Treatment is then symptomatic. Levodopa and other anti-Parkinson drugs often produce dramatic responses. However, most people given L-dopa experience ameliorations of the disease that are short-lived. Notable cases include Hawes, the curate in Agatha Christie's book The Murder at the Vicarage, was described as suffering from this syndrome. The discovery by Oliver Sacks that L-dopa could relieve some symptoms was described in his book Awakenings in 1973. Awakenings was used by Harold Pinter as the basis of his one-act play A Kind of Alaska, performed in 1982 starring Judi Dench. Diagnosis. Treatment. The disease plays a prominent role in the first issue of Neil Gaiman's comic book Sandman. The disease, usually referred to by its nickname Sleepy Sickness and only once by its medical name, is attributed to the imprisonment of the sleep master Dream in 1916 by an occultist. Notable cases. Society. Print and plays. Film and television. Music. The novel Umbrella by Will Self centers on the occurrence of this disease and its later treatment with L-dopa. The disease is described in moderate detail in Peter Cummings' novel The Neuropathology of Zombies, in which a proposed mutated form of the disease is considered as the possible cause of a zombie outbreak. Sleepy sickness is also similar to the disease suffered by the Haydens in John Scalzi's novel Lock-In. Encephalitis lethargica inspired the disease at the heart of Forrest Carr's post-apocalyptic sci-fi novel A Journal of the Crazy Year, and is investigated in the plot as a potential cause of the world-ending outbreak. Encephalitis lethargica is researched and mentioned in the Canadian television show Regenesis, in the last few episodes of the second series. The disease is involved in one of the episodes in the American science fiction television show Alphas, called A Short Time in Paradise, in which the antagonist causes encephalitis lethargica to afflict his victims. Awakenings is a 1990 film starring Robin Williams and Robert De Niro which is the dramatization of real-life neurologist Oliver Sacks' work with encephalitis lethargica patients. In 1987, U.S. noise rock band Big Black recorded a song about the 1920s encephalitis lethargica epidemic called El Dopa on their album Songs About Fucking.